All right, so this is round two, and we're just coming off of a very nice win from the day before. So in this game, we are playing down again. This is the under 2100 section. I didn't mention that in the first video. So we played down a lot in this tournament, but yeah, all the favorites lost in the first round, which was very, very interesting. I was one of the only players who was playing down who actually won their game. So I didn't really have a chance to play up very much because all the high-rated opponents had lost. So yeah, so this is round two, and we get a Slav, and against the Slav in this tournament, I decided to play this B3 line um, with a bishop D3, bishop B2, and yeah, this is sort of a standard setup that you can go for. And the idea is eventually I'm going to open the center and make this bishop really nice. And it also supports the knight e5 jump, which does end up happening in a couple of moves. So castles, castles. And now rook e8 might be a little bit of an inaccuracy. I was sort of expecting rook e8 because it is a common idea in this line to be able to play e5, and um, the issue with it is that I can block it with knight e5, and rook e8 looks maybe not like the most accurate move at this point. I was thinking maybe that b6 would be an alternative, maybe a stronger move. Um, but they're both, I did not think that rook e8 was like a terrible move at this point. It seemed like, part of the plan. Maybe my knight on e5 will get kicked away, and then e5, maybe like an eventual f6 e5 will happen. My knight will get kicked out. But for now, it's there. And my opponent plays a very quick c5 without prepping it with b6, which sort of surprised me. But then as I was, looking at it, it's like, yeah, this is definitely like, if it works, this is the move that Black would want to play. So I had to figure out how to resolve it, and I spent a bit of time here, probably one of my longer things in this game, because I wanted to figure out, like, okay, do I want to take this and open up the bishop like that? Or do I want to take on, well, if I allow black to capture in all the directions, then I probably end up with either hanging pawn structure or an isolated queen pawn. That depends on if I want to take here with the pawn or with a piece. I decide that the isolated queen pawn position is probably, even though I'm not a huge fan of playing those sorts of positions, it's probably just objectively good for white if that happens. So I play knight d2 so that I can, on takes d4, I'll take with the pawn, and then if takes on c4, I'll take with the knight with a tempo. And yes, I do have an isolated queen's pawn, but my pieces are just so active that, yeah, it should just be good for me. So she does take. And then here, not takes, but this move, which I think this move is a mistake. Because basically the purpose of putting the knight here is that it really shouldn't ever be taken, because if it is, then I take with the pawn, and this pawn is very nice with the attack because it kicks the knight away from f6. Then h7 pawn is going to be very weak. It might provoke g6, and then the dark squares are very weak. And later on, this bishop, it looks like it's just walking to this pawn, but the pawn at some point will likely force, like, maybe I'll put this knight on f6 or something, and then a trade will happen, and then a pawn will be here protected by the bishop, and then there'll be mates around the king. So it's very long term, but long term, allowing this pawn to e5 with the bishop on b2 is normally good for white. So I think this is a mistake. Now the move she plays here, I did miss. I didn't see this move here. I was expecting, like, um, I don't even know what I was expecting, actually. But she plays this move knight c5, which is, good move. So here, I start by calculating taking on f6, which doesn't work. Taking on f6, takes on d3, queen g4. I'll just show the line because it's it doesn't work, but it's fun here. And then if g6, I'm not quite in time to be able to, like, go and mate, because if I play queen g5, she takes this bishop, and I can't hold on to the I can't protect this pawn in order to play queen h6. Like, you can imagine if I played, like, well, maybe I can. What about this move? How does this work? Oh wait, no, the knight's covering d1. So this doesn't work. So it takes, and I was thinking if rook d1 here, it's not really clear how you deal with this because I'm attacking the queen, the rook can't move out of the way to let the queen slide to f8, and on my next turn I'm playing queen h6, but the knight is covering the d1 square, so that doesn't work. And then the other point was like here, you can't like move in it. You can't go like queen d6 to queen f8. You can't play rook e7, queen f8. So if the knight wasn't covering d1 here, this actually might work. But anyway, that's sort of a nonsense line. I just played bishop c2. She told me after the game that she had been looking at queen c2 as the main move because queen c2, I'm still attacking the knight and I'm going to be hitting the pawn. But then I think she said that she was actually looking at this move, which would have been a very good move, potentially even very good for black. But I don't have to do either of those two forcing lines. I can simply drop the bishop to c2, and now the knight needs to retreat. And this position is just very, very good for white because I have this bishop on this diagonal. This bishop is on this diagonal, which is going to be a very strong piece. My queen's going to come into the attack. I'll play f4 if I need it. I can lift a rook. It's just all of my pieces are going to be attacking on the king side, and yeah, there's just not enough with this pawn on e5. There's no way for the bishop to get into the game. Um, yeah, it's just a very good position for white. So here I actually decide to take on d5, which I was very happy to do because um, the resulting position is like, okay, first of all, strategically I now have the advantage of the isolated pawn. So even if my attack fails, I'm just strategically better. Um, the other thing is that if ever a bishop or knight lands on e6, that just walks into this f pawn push with tempo, and that improves my attack, makes it come faster. So the bishop probably wants to go to b7, but now with this pawn fixed here, if b6 bishop b7, I just blockade the d4 square, and then the bishop will never be able to attack my king. So those were the things that I was thinking about, and I was very happy to take on d5. I was very happy with that move. And now as I played f4, f4 not to immediately play f5, but just to solidify this pawn in the center, get my, maybe I lift this rook, I just clear away. Knight b6, which is sort of going in the wrong direction. I was thinking that maybe the knight should go to f8 and take up a defensive posture. Probably it's still very difficult position, but bringing all the pieces over to the queen side is going to leave the king barren. Won't have any defenders. The horse is the best friend of the king, and so if you keep your horse close to your king, it's much less likely that you get attacked. Knight on f8, never mate. That's as the saying goes. So I play rook c1. I was very happy with this continuation because here my pieces, like, I have this attack, and like, yes, I can start with queen h5 and provoke g6 and whatever, but it felt like, in moments like these, you have to sort of talk to your pieces. And the queen can go to h5. Yes, it wants to go there. The bishop is very happy, so I don't need to move the bishop at all. The knight wants to move to f3, but if I move it to f3 now, then I can't bring the queen. So I don't quite want to move that. Definitely, I want to play queen h5 before knight f3. But the piece that really wants to move is this rook. It's not in the game at all. And I found that I could get it into the game with tempo. So I played rook c1. And so this does threaten bishop 8 takes h7. Here, what was I expecting here? I don't totally remember what I was expecting, but h6 was tried. It's probably a fine move. And now I play bishop b1 with tempo. So now all of my pieces are sort of working together, whereas in this position they weren't really working together. It's sort of like you can see the potential, but it's unclear how they're all working together. Visually, this position is extremely appealing because now we have the two bishops that are looking at the king from over here, very safe. The a pawn's not even threatened because the bishop is protecting it. In some lines, maybe that's relevant. Just this construction, everything's defended. The rook is now on an open file. It's not, no pieces are in the way of each other. The queen will have the h5 square, the knight will have the f3 square, the rooks will have even the third rank, and so all the pieces are working in harmony together. So this was a very nice and very nice plan. Here, actually, knight a6 was played. If for some reason I was thinking, like, so if queen e7, then this move would be a fork on the knight and checkmate. So those were the sorts of things I was looking at. Knight a6 instead, but now the knight is going to the wrong side of the board. Now again, all of black's pieces are over here, and the king is left wondering who's protecting him. I guess these two bishops and the queen that now jumps into the game. Um, So knight goes to d7 now, coming back because it's realized that the king does need some protection. And then this move rook c3, which maybe not the best move, but it felt like, okay, I definitely want to lift a rook here. 'Cause it felt like f4, f5, while it might be the best move, f5. It just felt like I just want to keep building the position. It's not really clear. Even if the knight does get to f8, it can never go to e6 because then f5 will be a tempo. So I just want to improve my worst placed piece, which none of my pieces are poorly placed. Maybe the knight wants to come in, but I wanted to get a rook on g3 first. So I felt like if I could get that, why not? So rook c3, a check, king h1, and here there's the move queen d4 that I felt should be tried. Worst case on this move, I can just play rook c2, and it's unclear like um, what has really happened. Maybe like queen going to d3 doesn't work. I'll play rook f3, or maybe not that move. But so worst case there's that. But the line I really wanted to make work, but couldn't quite, was this move rook g3 takes the bishop. Queen takes h6, threatening mate, and it looks unavoidable. But there is the move king f8. But there, I think if I had kept looking at it, I would have found something. There might be like queen g7, king e7, queen g5, and if king goes back to f8, there's rook h3, which looks probably mating on h8, and if f6, I just assume that there's something there. So probably none of that works. Instead, knight c5, allowing rook g3. Position is very difficult. I can't take on h6 yet because the queen does defend. Queen c6 was the move of choice. And now it's time to get rid of the pawns. These pawns are sort of in the way, right? Like I have, if they were off the board, I'd have like the bishops pointing at the king, I'd have the rooks pointing at the king, and it's just way too much. So I just start by playing f5. I'm threatening f6, which would be completely winning. Knight takes pawn, and now f6. Now the pawns are off the board, and I'm threatening mate in many different ways. So bishop g4 was tried, which is sort of like a desperate attempt at this point, but it might prolong the game a little bit. I take it again, and then here probably there's a more efficient way of winning than what I did. Maybe bishop f5 would do it. Maybe I don't even know. There's probably many moves. I just take on g7 because I mean these bishops. Look at them. Like this is going to be made. So knight g5, h4. Queen e6, which is sort of like, I don't really want to trade the queens at this point, so I play bishop f5. But now queen e2, now that my queen's defended, I can just take the knight for free. And if we trade the queens, yes, you can go into like a position where you have a rook for 3 pieces, and I would just win the endgame, especially because I still would have this this pawn on g7. But after it takes on d2, there's a very nice finish, which is bishop h7 check. King needs to take it. Queen f5. King has to go to g8. Queen takes f7 check. King back. And then the finale, my bishop, which just sacrificed itself on h7, reappears with a checkmate. So yeah, I was very happy with this game. It felt much more clean than the first game. Still felt like some things that I wasn't totally sure about. But yeah, overall, I would say it was a much better game to play. I felt much less tense. I felt like I didn't miss anything super large in that game. So let's take a look. Here we have this setup with bishop b2, bishop d3, castles, rook e8, and then yeah, after rook e8, knight e5 is the correct way to play. And c5, yeah, this is the right thing to do. I was more expecting this b6 c5, but c5 immediately seems playable. And I eventually determined that there's nothing better than just playing knight d2, maybe f4, but I didn't want, I was thinking about f4, but I thought if f4 maybe takes, and the pawn is sort of strange sitting on f4 by itself. So I don't know. I couldn't quite make sense of it, but knight d2 is not a bad move, so it's good. Now here, yeah, b6 should definitely be played. Although cd was sort of the move I was anticipating. Both of those moves are the two moves in the position. So cd was played, ed, and now b6. Yeah, definitely. You need to play b6 at this point and get this bishop open. Instead, this move is a blunder. Takes, knight c5, bishop goes to c2, and yeah, knight fd7. So I was very happy about taking on d5. It's not being listed as a top choice, but it is, well, now it is. So yeah, it is a good move. I was very happy with that move. And then f4. So far playing very well. Knight b6. And yeah, it says queen h5 immediately, but rook c1 is up there, listed at around the same. And I was very happy to consolidate my pieces with this rook c1 bishop b1 maneuver, which the machine does approve of. So good to see. Knight goes to a6, and now yeah, f5 is just crushing, but queen h5 being listed as a top move. Knight d7, and yeah, rook f3 it wants to put on rook g3, but rook c3 coming up. There it is. I see it. So this move is also very nice. Now being listed as a better move. Yeah, I like you. I really like to see that because rook c3 I felt was a very special move. It gets the that piece into the attack, because if I play rook f3, rook g3, like do I want the rook on f1 or c1? I want the rook on f1 because it supports, it's actually doing more in the attack. So rook c3, best move. Queen b6 check, king h1. This line probably rook g3 is completely winning here. This is the move I was wanting to play, so I probably would have done it. I just would have had to finish calculating this thing. King f8, and then I would have had to see the finish. Queen takes g7 does win, but rook takes g7 is stronger. If king tries to run, is there queen d6 winning, or is what's the win here? Queen g5 check. Okay, that makes actually, oh yeah, that's just very easy actually. So probably would have seen that if I had needed to see it, because that was the line that I was trying to make work. In the game though, knight c5. Now rook gets to g3 for free. Queen c6, and now, ooh, rook takes g7 would have been a very quick mate. Rook takes g7, e6 check. Yeah, that would have been very nice. Instead, f5 is one of the other best moves. Interestingly, bishop h7 check is the second best, and b4 is next, but f5 is also completely winning. Knight takes, f6 is good. Bishop g4 takes, knight e6. Fg7 is best, so I'm happy with that. I couldn't quite figure out something better than it. So yeah, fg7 here. I just play h4 here, bishop f5 here, and now I just take this. And best is to go trade the queens and go into the completely losing endgame. Instead, this move allows a mate in 4, which I play. Yeah, bishop takes bishop g8 to end the game, under promoting. So yeah, that was a much cleaner, much more convincing game than the first. No blunders, no mistakes, no inaccuracies really the whole game. So I was very happy with that one. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed as much as I did that one. And I'll see you in the next video.